old's Chad's student?
4 and 3.
Oh, wow.
Good evening and welcome to the Monday, October 24th, 2022 Litchfield Board of Selectmen meeting. The board has just come out of a paperwork review. I'd like to call the meeting to order and ask everyone to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First, we have the review and approval of consent items. We have an account payroll manifest of October 25th, 2022 in the sum of $57,075.13. We have a payroll manifest of October 27th, 2022 in the sum of $66,319.65. We have a land use change tax abatement, map 1, lot 23 in the sum of $4,055.23. We have a land use tax, change tax A5 form for map 1, lot 23. And we have a land use change tax release correction for map 1, lot 23. Are there any items members would like to remove from consent? Hearing none, do we have a motion to approve?
So move.
We have a motion by Mr. LaSalle's.
I'll second it.
We have a second by Mr. Lynch. All those in favor, Mr. Leary. Mr. LaSalle's.
Aye.
Mr. Lynch.
Aye.
Ms. Queenan.
Aye.
I am also an aye. Motion carries 5-0-0. Is there any other business members would like to add this evening? Hearing none, public input will occur no earlier than 6:45 p.m. First item of business is the approval of the October 17th, 2022 minutes. Do we all have a chance to review and put up any corrections?
Change, but I put a big wad of gum in my mouth.
Yes. Yeah.
That is rude, and I'm sorry, I was coughing. I did make a change. I emailed it to everybody so I could read it so nobody would be shocked, or I can just read it out loud.
You sent that to us.
I did. Let me find it. What'd I do with it? Hold on, give me a sec. I'm just falling apart tonight. Give me one moment, please.
Read it for her, Kevin.
Yeah, can you read it for me, Kevin?
Yeah.
Can you read it? Do you have it in front of you?
I can get
If
it.
not,
my
I just have to
iPhone.
get it.
In Braille.
I have to close this out to get to it.
Got a lot of clicking going on over there.
Yeah, I didn't have my email open.
Matt sent an email with the corrections.
I added to it. There were no typos that I found.
Okay.
Okay, here it is. It just, we had a one-liner up, remember that whole presentation that we did? That said, the board then reviewed a couple of spreadsheets, so I kind of elaborated a little bit. Because people do read this and they just, take this and don't watch the meeting. So I changed it to the board then reviewed findings prepared by Kay Queenan regarding New Hampshire ethics policies. First, I reviewed spreadsheets that contain summary information of New Hampshire towns she researched that had conflict of interest, conflict of conduct, and ethic policies, and those that had ethic committees. It was noted that Litchfield had a conflict of interest policy created in 1982. Second, she provided hard copies of the NHRSA laws that were to be cited in a few New Hampshire Municipal Association articles that we were going to review, that warned against potential liabilities towns could encounter when forming and using ethics committees. Third, they reviewed the few key New Hampshire Municipal Association articles and the NHRSAs together to understand the potential liabilities, and they reviewed each of the NHRSA's federal, state, and local employee handbook, et cetera, applied to town employees, elected officials, and appointed officials in regard to removal of their jobs or from office. It was agreed that Litchfield's 1982 conflict of interest policy should be reviewed to make sure it applies to current RSA standards and will be updated if needed. Later, the Board of Selectmen will revisit creating an ethics policy that allows NHRSAs only, but will probably not create an ethics committee. Is that okay? That's a summary of what we did, right? The other change is at the end are my committee reports. I just changed one sentence. The old one said, when we talked about NRPC in section 2A, the Corning Road Route 3A intersection project was approved and has moved on to the DOT. That's the old sentence. The new sentence should say the Corning Road Route 3A intersection project was approved by TTAC, Transportation Technical Advisory Committee, in parentheses, and has now moved on to NHDOT to see if it is selected to make it onto the New Hampshire 10-year transportation plan.
Which group it was that you went to.
That's what I have.
Do we have any other corrections? Do we have a motion to approve based off Ms. Queenan's comments?
Move to accept as amended.
A motion by Mr. LaSalle's, second by Mr. Leary. All those in favor, Mr. Leary.
Aye.
Mr. LaSalle's.
Aye.
Mr. Lynch.
Aye.
Ms. Queenan.
Aye.
I'm also an aye. Motion carries 5-0-0. Next, we have the appointment of Laura Dionne, alternate for library trustee, term to expire March 31st, 2023. Ms. Kleiner.
Yes, so we received this from Ms. Varnick, and the committee has voted to appoint Laura Dionne as an alternate to the library trustees with a term to expire on March 31st. This is replacing a vacancy that was just made by another appointment.
Okay. Do we have a motion to appoint?
So moved to make a motion.
A motion by Mr. Lynch,
I'll second.
second by Ms. Queen. All those in favor, Mr. Leary.
Aye.
Mr. LaSalle's.
Aye.
Mr. Lynch.
Aye.
Ms. Queen.
Aye.
I am also an aye. Motion carries 5-0-0. Next, we have the draft emergency management director job description. Ms. Kleiner.
Last meeting, the board had two individuals that came forward for this position. It was asked that we draft a job description for the position. I worked with both fire chief and with Mr. French, and we established the job description in front of you. And we think it's pretty comprehensive of what is needed for the position.
Mhm.
And we would ask for the board's approval.
It looks pretty good to me. I wonder if we should include, it includes compensation. It says, position is a stipend, which is fine. But as far as measuring the effectiveness of performance, and what is the term? And I don't know whether the term would be included in the job description or not, but I would think that we should agree beforehand on how we're gonna measure the effectiveness of this person, and how often we're gonna evaluate them, and, you know, not that we're anticipating any issues, but just to have that included in the job description.
It'd be good to be ahead of anything that might pop up, so to have something in place, I think is pretty prudent.
Yeah.
And are we thinking of a term of 1 year, 2 years, 3 years?
Well, the plan's every 5 years or
5,
three?
I think,
5
yeah.
years.
Yeah.
The plan?
There's an emergency management plan that has to be put in place every 5 years.
Okay.
The last time we did it, we hired a consulting firm to work on it with us. And it was really effective, the whole group. It was a
And
cross-functional.
we had the fire chief as the,
He was the emergency director at the time, yes.
okay.
And he was the spearhead of it.
So what's your thoughts with respect, if the plan is every 5 years, how often, or what should the term of this position be? I think 5 years to appoint somebody is a long time.
It's a long time.
Yeah.
I would say 3 or less, you know? And I don't know that having a new plan due has anything to do with the term of the, you know?
No.
I would think 2 years would be plenty, and review every year.
Yeah?
We
2 or
can do it as a
3.
group, or we can recommend somebody do it. One of us, along with maybe Karen and Kim, and interview the people that work under them. And just kinda get a feel.
In this case, they wouldn't have any direct reports.
No, it would be the whole, emergency management team,
Yeah,
which is a department head, then somebody from the selectmen.
yeah.
Probably be good to maybe digest this a little bit. This is the first time I'm seeing it. And maybe think about enacting it in the next meeting.
Yeah, we could give all our comments back, Ms. Kaliner in the interim.
Yep.
Yep. Questions, comments?
Yeah, that's a real good
Yeah,
framework.
We're stepping on new grounds here, so we ought to think about the term limits is important. I need to read this a little bit more. I haven't really read it. Okay, that one. So,
There's not many pictures, Kevin.
there's none actually,
never ends.
not even the town seal.
On which car is it supposed to be on next? Okay.
The physical demands on this job are pretty aggressive. To move 100 pounds, is, you know, that's aggressive, you know. I know they have to move equipment and get into dangerous situations with the fumes and the toxins, you know.
100 pounds?
It said 100, yeah, the last one, the physical demands.
Yep.
I saw where it says
Was a 20-pound
expect
one in there.
to work with machinery and so forth, but I didn't see the 100 pounds.
Something to look forward
I
to.
don't see, oh yeah, move up to 20 pounds and occasionally lift up to 100 pounds.
Okay, if everybody could review and put in their comments and questions if they have any, and we can vote on it the next meeting, that'd be great.
Okay with me?
Seeing that it's 6:45, we'll open up the public input. Any members of the public like to provide input?
I would like to.
Good evening and welcome.
I'm Rick Charbonneau, 401 Charles Bancroft Highway, and I'm coming in from my friendly place, Mel's. So, we have sign ordinances in this town, and I think that at Mel's, they're not paying any attention to our sign ordinance whatsoever. There's signs up and down 3A that aren't even on their own property. Nobody's ever gone to the zoning board for a variance to put up a sign like that. There's signs on fences, directional sign, you know, they have ticket booths and signs everywhere. Way more than what our ordinance allow. And now there's a sign on the building that says beer and food on the big building where the arcade is. There's a sign on that I guess that pushed me over the edge. So, it says beer and food. Well, is that where we're headed to in this town? You know, when I have an outing at the golf course, I mean, when they're having their spooky world, they're having outings, same thing to me. You got people that are out from the area. So can we put signs up and down 3A that says outing event? Can we put a sign up on the building that says beer and food? Can any business in town, can the little mini store, can they just go put a sign up that says cold beer? I mean, where does this stop with these guys? You know, it's nonstop. You know, so now the neighbors are back parking cars where they're not supposed to. But, you know, I don't blame them. If these guys can do whatever they want, why can't the neighbors do what they want? And why can't any business in this town put up signs? You know, when I built past Hidden Creek, excuse me, when I built Hidden Creek, I put a little sign out. It's part of it still there. I put it on a fence post and made it look, it's 2x2. I get grief about that 2x2 sign. It was on my own property, okay? But people didn't like the sign there because it wasn't part of the ordinance. I left it there anyway. But it's 2x2. And when you put in your GPS, even today, it sends you by Romano's. Doesn't send you down Albuquerque. Even to this day, it sends you down that way.
Morgan Road?
Yeah, just try it, you'll see. All right, but that's what it does. So, you know, we had this little sign, but anybody, I can remember when at the convenience store, they put out a little light up sign. They had to rip it down, they had to take it down. forever in this town. You couldn't have signs like that. They need signs like that because they have a poor plan. They're sending people down the road past the place to get into a parking lot. It's a poor plan. And believe me, I complain at many planning board meetings that their plan was poor. And it's still poor. And I just think that we need to enforce the regulations, or we let everybody do whatever they want, you know? I mean, when at Continental Paving at the quarry, I put it on the street sign, just so that people could see it. I didn't go put out a sign on the edge of the road, Continental Paving. I own the land on both sides of the road. It would be on my own. I mean, can anybody do it? On 102, that, you know, if someone opens a bakery, the lady that has the bakery, can she go put up a sign that says cupcakes and pies for sale? Or a restaurant, anything? Just not right. I mean, when the seafood place expanded, they came in, they got their variance, they did everything right. And here these guys are, they just keep doing it the way they want. They go to the planning board approves a plan, but they don't follow through on things like signs and things like that. And there are no variances in the regulations, and there's zoning regulations when it comes to sign. So it's zoning, and nobody's gone for one variance for a sign on that site. And drive by, just please drive by and take account of how many signs are out there. There's not one, there's not two, there's 20 or 30 signs that aren't in the regulation. It's specific with signs on buildings, what they can be, everything. Just look at the regulation and go see. I mean, I love this town. I've lived here a long time, you know? My wife grew up here. She never lived any place but Litchfield. You know, and everywhere else, go look at any other business, any place. There's no signs like they have over here. Just not the same anywhere else. And they need to just, you know, when it's just Mel's, you can drive by, it's fine. But when it comes to Spooky World time, forget it. Even the lighting doesn't even come close to meeting our regulations. Not even close. It's way, it shadows the houses. It clearly in the regulation says it can't go on other people's property, and it does. It exceeds it by far. That's my complaint.
Okay.
And I wish we could do something about it, because somebody has to do something about it. Or the rest of anybody that wants to do anything in the town should be able to do the same thing. And I don't think that's what we want. That's not what I want.
No.
You
Ms.
know.
Kleiner, can you have Mr. Blackwell go down and take a look?
Absolutely.
He's zoning, right? He's
Yeah,
zoning.
he's the enforcement officer.
1500 to 1504 is the zoning ordinance.
Yeah.
So 1500 to 1504.
You read the reg, you'll see it. It's
Yep.
not, you know, they park cars wherever they want. I mean, it's like this fall, they were parking cars behind where they eventually have I don't know if the plan got signed yet, but they were waiting for a variance to park cars across the street. So they were parking cars out back, and then their excuse is, well, we thought our site plan was approved. Well, the site plan showed pavement that they never built yet, but yet they're parking cars out there. So they just do what they want. They don't even care. They don't even care what anybody thinks. They don't care what their plan says. They get it approved and do what they want. And they've been doing it for a long time. And it's time. It's time that someone gets them in order, as far as I'm
Let's get
concerned.
Jeff over there, have him look at it and dig up the regulations. So,
I'm very concerned about the lighting. I think that lighting there's a big safety issue. And I avoid the place like the plague after dark, simply because my old eyes don't work that well. And sometimes some of the lights just hit right in your face. And then there's shadows where you can't tell where people are walking, and it's tough. I just,
It gets even worse on a rainy night.
Yeah, like tonight.
You know, it's the same thing. I mean, I understand they have to have police, but there's nothing worse than to come up, especially on a rainy night, when the strobe lights are really going on a police cruiser. You know, as I called Jeff, I said, maybe you can talk to the police chief, maybe they can just leave them on blue, because there was a couple cars out there, they were just on blue, they weren't, you know, that high intensity. And you could drive by without seeing it, but it's really, I mean, I always said it's dangerous, I still think it's dangerous, and thank God nobody's ever got hurt yet. But it's really hard to see when you're driving by and the blue lights are going on the cruiser and people are out there walking
And we know it's there. So think of somebody that's driving south on 3A and it's dark and they don't know it's there and they come upon it, you know? That's what worries me.
you know, I mean, just one other chicken thing. In our regulations, it calls for the good side of a fence to be towards the abutting property. They didn't do that. They put the good side of the fence facing their property. Just what the regulations say. Check it, you'll see.
Which fence is that? Is that the stockade up
The
in the road?
stockade that goes
Stockade.
around. It says, right in our regulations, the good, you know, the finished side of the fence,
Faces the butter.
facing the abutter. And they don't do that. They don't even do that. So I don't know why, you know, it's not a big deal to change it around, but it's what the regulations say. You know, it's no different. The zoning board approved them having 100 cars parked across the street. Who's ever gonna enforce it? Who's gonna know if there's not 200 cars out there? No one, there's no one working. When they're open, nobody's around.
That's the tough part.
That's the tough part. So somebody has to go out and do an inspection a couple times, 3 or 4 times during the season to see if they're in compliance. And really is what should happen. That anybody that gets an approval like that when they're open, when no one out, when everybody's gone, should have some kind of inspection, you know?
That might be good to have Jeff check that on a Friday or a Saturday night. Those are the busy nights.
Yeah.
That's, should be there on a Saturday night, you know? It's like they have,
You were asked Jeff to do this as well, to check on it?
I just called Jeff and said, this is what's happening.
Okay.
And he said he's looking into it, so
Okay.
that's it, you know, I'm not, I've called him, I said, this is what I seen, will you look into it? I guess, yeah.
Part of the
Nobody's
process
looking
of
into
the
the
planning
parking.
board, it was the directory, is the signs that they use for directing traffic. And no different than the signs you use on a road project, but you're just trying to get things, keep people safe.
No.
That's the process of it.
They're not,
It's only for 4 or 5 weeks, okay? Then it's dead for the rest of the year, and I understand that. It's like a temporary event. Like, let's say that the fair runs a week. All these signs are all over the place, like the Deerfield Fair, signs all over the place. Okay, I'm just saying, that's what I'm referring to, Rick. So you're looking at the signage and you're looking at the fence, parking on grass. I'd rather park on grass than a hot top. It drains better.
I'm not saying there's nothing about it, all I'm telling you, all I'm saying is they got a plan approved. And the plan showed paving done.
Yeah.
And there was grass parking also on that plan.
Yep.
But they haven't done any of the work and they're parking on the grass, that's all.
I haven't seen
There's a site plan, everybody has a site plan to follow, okay? It doesn't matter, me, you, anybody. We have to follow a site plan. And when we just jump 3 steps ahead because we didn't build the parking lot, that doesn't make it right, you know? Granted, there are directional signs for 6 or 7 weeks. I think they're almost going 7 weeks, right, from start to finish. But they're not putting the signs down. They're not the same signs as a construction sign. It's not quite 4x8, but it's 2x8 or 3x8. I mean, they're big signs. And the DOT has already told them they can't be in the right of way because they're too big and too heavy and they'd be a problem. So they have to be out of the right of way. But then they allow them to, their neighbors, some of their neighbors are allowing them to put on their property. But again, do the neighbors have a right to put a sign like that on their property? I don't know. Know what the regulations say. The regulations say you have to have a permit to put a sign up. So, that's all.
Okay.
So letters were issued today on the parking issue.
In the parking?
Another thing that Jeff and I discussed is making a list of all of the items that have been of concern and holding a meeting prior to the season with the owners so that we can go through these and tackle these ahead of time versus now we're at near the end of their season, right? And so if we can really come to an agreement and make sure that we are all on the same page as to what is expected, and then Jeff can make inspections very early on in the process. We're concerned that now there's roughly 2 weeks left, and then nothing happens, the next season starts. We really need to tackle this at the beginning.
I agree.
I agree.
And I've been trying to tackle it for a long time.
You have.
So, and
The
I'm like
ordinance is
Rich, I
a-
try to avoid the place because it bothers me. But when the sign went up on the building that says beer and food, it's like,
I haven't seen that one yet.
it's,
Oh,
I
it's,
saw
it's,
it.
big
yeah,
white
it's
one,
right in the
It's
middle
there.
of it.
It's there.
It's white
there.
with black lettering, I think?
yeah, black, it's a white sign with black lettering. It says beer and food.
It's like at the second level.
Yeah.
I was blinded by the blue lights flashing most of the time.
Well, I don't think that sign is lighted.
And, that's why I came in earlier in the year and I said, let's be proactive, but here we are again and we still didn't do anything. And it's, I agree. I mean, the year's over, I get it. But when we come next year, we need to, if they're not doing it right, it's like the beer and food sign should come down. I mean, it should be down tomorrow. I mean, it's just not supposed to be there. The other ones, okay, let's live with it this year, but we need to address it. And I totally agree with that. Just it's 5 or 6 more days, I guess we can live with it, but we need to have a understanding next year before they open on what can happen and what can't happen. So if they have to go get variance, someone's gotta make that determination.
Yep.
If they gotta go get a variance or whatever, that's what they gotta do. All right? Thank you very much.
I agree.
Sorry to have to listen to me whine.
No, that's okay. We're here for it. We love our public input.
Thank you.
We don't get it very often.
Nope, so it's good when we do.
Yuck.
Thanks, Rick. Have a good night. All right, any other members of the public like to provide input this evening? Seeing none, we'll close public input. The next we have is budget update. Ms. Kleiner. And Mr. Leary.
Did you go?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, just wondering.
Well, they took the cutting.
That they did.
That they did. 2 axes and a machete. We're gonna have to make some decisions how we're gonna take care of this. My recommendation was to just have them not recommend the budget, because there's no fat in our budget. They took out the officer that's on deployment, which legally, we have to hold that position. We cannot not fund that position. He came back tomorrow, he's entitled to his job. They took that out, they took the cruiser out, which is gonna create issues down the road when we get back on our program. That's gonna be $65,000 off the tax cap right away. What else did they hit?
Planning board.
What's that?
It was mostly the police department.
Yeah,
was
the police,
bulk
the
of
police took it hard.
Because they're only, what, halfway through right now?
Right. I did meet with fire, road agent, and the transfer station, Dave, this morning. So I thought it would be a little bit better to be proactive and to meet with them and get ideas on if there were to be budget cuts within their departments, were there specific areas that they wanted us to speak up for, and they gave me very good feedback. And some ideas of where, if there has to be, they could cut these areas and what the impact would be, right? And I think that's what the budget committee needs to hear. Unfortunately, I wish I had done that prior to last week's meeting, because I think there were some areas that were of specific concern. And I think that this is a department that's working very hard, and, you know, you get a little concerned with the perception. of
Yeah,
those
that's not what the police department needs right now.
No.
Not at
You know, what bothered me about, I watched the meeting, what bothered me was the discussion was all about, well, we gotta get another tax cap. It wasn't a real rational discussion around why are we cutting, what are we doing? It's just we have to get below the tax cap when they legally don't have to get below the tax cap. They just can't vote for something that's over the tax cap. So I think the conversation, I would have liked to have seen it been more of what is right for the budget, for the residents, for the services we bring forth.
Right.
Not just, we're gonna cut it, and so many times people are like, well, I guess I'll vote for that, because we gotta get under the tax cap. And that wasn't the language that should have been used, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, it was, I didn't think it was a good job by the budget committee. It's the first time in 4 years I can say that, but
Yeah.
I thought they were
I agree.
a little over the top.
100%. And, you know, coming out of the gate and
Yeah.
being very accusatory at us for not being under the tax cap without looking into why we weren't under the tax cap. I mean, when health insurance goes up 20%, you look at just the contractual obligations we had.
Fuel
You looked
costs,
at health,
electricity.
you looked at all your utilities, you looked at road salt, I mean, we're already over.
And last year's warrant articles.
And last year's warrant
passed
added to
the
it, so-
voters.
Correct.
I understand they have a job to do.
Yep. But I mean, and then the comment was made, well, you can add it back in at deliberative. Well, at the same point, deliberative, they're not gonna be able to vote for it if it's back over. So let's do the right thing for the residents ahead of time. Let's get to the right budget. And if it's over, it's over. If it's under, great.
Are they willing to do that?
I don't know.
I think a specific concern was, and I did reach out to the NHMA today, I was curious. So I come from a community with a spending cap, not a tax cap. So I wanted to know if there were any communities that had a tax cap of a flat fee, of a flat amount. And they didn't know of any, and I think that that flat amount, because as your budget increases, as we all know, the cost of inflation in the current climate, I think that flat amount is the problem.
Correct.
So it's no figure that is based on any economic at all. But I do think that, you know, as I met with people today, they were concerned about, well, we need warrant articles now. If you're cutting some of these things, now we need warrant articles, and that was a conversation that I felt that Karen really needed to be at. So we're going to meet as a team, all of us, on Thursday, to kind of come up
Solution.
with some ideas that we can bring forth to you.
That's a good idea for warrant articles, which is outside of the tax cap.
But then you're facing it next year.
I understand. But like I
It's pushing,
said,
it's pushing the problem down the road.
yeah,
That's
well,
the
we have no
tough part.
choice. Okay.
I would have rather left the budget like it was and let the voters decide.
Yeah.
Because we could have made our pitch to the voters directly.
I think we need to, change that flat fee
Yep.
back to 3% or whatever.
In 2017, when they came up with it, it was about 3% of the operating budget that year.
Well, we need to change it, you know, if the flat amount is the problem, we need to do what we need to do to change it to whatever figure, whether it's 3% or whatever.
So I think when we start looking at warrant articles, that's one we're gonna have to take a hard look at, and what is the right way to do it, what is the right dollar value, how is it beneficial for everybody, and being very courteous to the taxpayers, because that's, I mean, we're all taxpayers too.
Have we had any news with respect to insurance or revenues or anything?
No tax rate yet. We got, unemployment and property liability, which went up. We haven't gotten, workers' comp, and our health insurance went up 11.7%.
Now, does the DRA have everything to set our rate now?
They do,
They do.
but we heard that there might be something with utilities,
Correct.
so we don't know when we'll get it. I heard
Utilities in what regard?
utilities having to do with assessing and our equalization, and I think a DRA, some of the assessors use the DRA's way of doing the utilities, and some do it on their own. And Kim, was it the DRA's way of doing it that they were having the issue with?
Yes, so, some municipalities, across the state use Mr. Sansucci, George Sansucci, to set their utility rates. So, municipalities who use those, they're in, and those are generally final. Municipalities that don't use assessments that are set by the DRA. What I'm hearing now is December 1st, before the DRA makes those what they consider final. We have seen in the past that that's all right, and this, it's not the first time this has happened, and a tax rate gets issued. But we believe, at least when I spoke to some individuals last week, they were hearing that they were quite backed up with information and setting tax rates, and there were quite a few in the pipeline.
Thank you. Anything else in the budget update?
Stay tuned.
Back at it this Thursday, right?
Part 3.
All right, Litchfield Lions Club Trunk or Treat. Ms. Kleiner.
I will defer to Mr. Lynch.
The Lions Club, which you know, has had it here before, trick or trunk, a trunk or treat. Okay?
Could you say that
Easy for
again,
you to
please?
say, huh?
And what they're doing is they're gonna be doing it this year, and they're looking for permission. I talked to the chief today, the acting chief, and I told him, well, that sounds good, because they just put cars out here and they,
So they're gonna use the town hall again?
correct.
Yep.
I have no issues with it, that's what it's all about.
All right, do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Wow, I was still in talk. Good. Motion by Mr. Leary, second by Mr. LaSalle's. All those in favor, Mr. Leary?
Aye.
Mr. LaSalle's?
Aye.
Mr. Lynch?
Aye.
Ms. Queenan?
Aye.
I am also an aye. Motion carries 5-0-0. Town Administrator Report. Ms. Kleiner?
So, this weekend, after our meeting last week, I did work with the, New Hampshire staff, and I developed the project charter based on the information that we, discussed last week on working on a compensation study. So I have prepared that, they have accepted it, and I just need, approval, by a sponsor,
Okay.
on behalf of the board.
I'll be more than happy to sponsor you if you'd like.
Thank you very much. I'm more than happy to get started, and in fact, I discussed it, with department heads, a little bit, and we thought we'd add that to our agenda for this Thursday on the process and how it's gonna go. The other, thing that came up at budget, Mr. Larry properly remembers, is there was a light on in the gazebo.
God.
Oh,
We're
yes.
worried about a light in the daytime being on.
It was reported to me that it was a energy efficient bulb.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I got the same report.
So thankfully, Mr. Brunel went out and shut off
it
the
off,
light. Our concern is that residents know the gazebo is there. I've seen many people when I'm leaving at night, out with their kids around the gazebo. I'm not sure that it is safe for that gazebo not to have a light
Yep.
at night.
We gotta complain about
So we've asked Mr. Brown to, go out, and he actually has an electrician coming tomorrow to give us a quote on putting a sensor.
Sensor, yeah. Or a dusk to dawn timer or
That's the
something.
dawn would be good.
Something. And the other concern, though, is there's a part of the roof that has shifted. And we believe that needs to be looked at, especially if the gazebo is going to be used for any holiday festivities, like the Christmas in Litchfield group. So Mr. Brown's gonna look at that as well. We realized that there was the veterans group had come forth with a plan, but we don't think that's gonna be until next spring unless you know differently.
Yeah, it's gonna be a while.
So I think we need to do our due diligence to keep the
Yep.
gazebo in good repair until then.
With respect to the light, what if we, rather than having an electrician wire something, have a solar sensor light? So that it's not on unless somebody goes out there and, or maybe we want it on, I don't know. But it's just an idea.
Yeah, I don't know how much sun
lot
it
of
actually gets in
trees.
there.
Lots of
Yeah.
old trees, yeah.
Yeah,
A lot of
Yeah.
trees.
but,
Pine trees are the biggest killer there.
I mean, the energy efficient bulb, dusk to dawn, needs to be the safety part of it there. It's off all day. Because part of the complaint was it never went off, so it was on all day long and then it was on at night.
Yeah, just put a light sensor on it, you'll be fine.
So the,
That's a new one.
yeah, well, it adds up to a lot of money.
Yep.
Could be $1.5 million.
we'll bring forth any estimates for any repairs.
Leave it out long enough.
Right. So this afternoon, I believe, Chairman Weber, you received a letter from the Lower Merrimack River Advisory. I think it actually came from the state on their behalf. So this committee has been around for a long time, and they actually hold their meetings in Nashua. And Fran Murphy is the chair of the committee. So they are a committee that when there is any type of construction or development within a quarter mile of the beds of the river on both sides, Nashua, Merrimack, Hudson, Litchfield, the developers must submit a permit to this committee. And they often come in and they speak about it. They speak about, stormwater, runoff, any type of, changes to the riverbed that will occur from the development. They also discuss items when it comes to recreational use of the river, so boat launches, things of that, conservation issues. So I did speak with them this afternoon. Currently, they have 2 members from Nashua, 2 members from Merrimack, and then they have Mr. Croto, from the planning board here. They would like 3 additional members from Litchfield,
Two, and then what, 3 here, 4?
right? And I believe they're reaching out to the other municipalities as well to make
A bigger
sure that
committee.
they're even. I think we can reach out
Conservation.
to conservation, possibly the recreation committee, and any others that you'd like, and then we can bring them forward to you.
Could there be citizen reps also? It doesn't have to be on a board or commission?
It does not, as long as it is appointed by,
Citizens rep, yeah.
the municipality, by you as a group. And then it does go through a process, with the committee, but it seems like they are more just really interested that it has your blessing for any recommendations that they would make on behalf of the town during any committee discussion.
If we go to war with Merrimack over the island, would they facilitate peace talks or something?
We could put a flag out there and say it's ours now.
Yeah.
All right, if you
Could be
could reach out to Rec and Conservation, that'd be great, and
Okay.
anybody here else want to sit on it?
Even not this
When
year.
do they meet?
They meet once a month, in Nashua during the day, and I'm sorry, I did not ask what day of the week.
During the day is a problem for people that are working.
Right now, I'm not enjoying any more committees for another year. Too much going on.
Okay, reach out to our boards and see what we can come back with. Thank you.
Well,
Oh, look at Veterans Day, it's coming up.
and the Veterans Day is coming up, November 11th, so we'll be posting signs that, Town Hall will be closed. And then there is the NHMA conference on the 16th and the 17th. There's actually a whole session on ethics committees. It's, yeah, it is, I have to say, probably one of the most packed agendas, and offerings that I have seen,
Is that
in
in
a
Concord?
while.
Is that in
Manchester.
Manchester,
Manchester?
It's only Manchester
yes.
Is it Derryfield again?
No, it's over at the Doubletree,
Oh, the
across from the Verizon. Yeah.
Because the session they do on 91A is great.
I didn't see that one.
No, I
No, I
didn't.
They do it
didn't see that.
usually,
Up at
April, May,
NHMA.
after the new elections.
now. Oh, they're training new people?
So they
Yeah,
did do
yeah.
one this fall,
Yeah, Kim, let me know if you wanna go and I'll sign you up.
yeah.
Let me check
We
my
can
schedule.
send everyone the whole agenda and you can look through it. I mean, there are a lot of sessions. And quite a few of them were mentioned select boards, so. All right,
Send
we
the
will do
agenda,
that.
we'll see what we got.
Sounds good.
That's all I had.
You've had a
Yeah.
quiet week. It's-
Okay, Selectmen Reports, Ms. Queenan.
16th and 17th, Wednesday and Thursday.
Wednesday,
Yeah, Wednesday and Thursday. You can just do one day, you don't have to do both.
Oh, it's a one-day
No,
seminar?
you can choose one day, you can choose both, you can choose virtual for some of them, or go in person,
That sounds good.
yeah.
Planning Board, the next meeting will be held Tuesday, November 1st, 7 PM here at the Town Hall. At our last meeting on October 18th, the meeting agenda item was for the site plan review for an expansion at Olson's Mobile Home Park. They're fixing up the existing mobile homes park, and they're adding new manufactured single homes. The result of that is they will continue the site plan to a date certain of November 15th. So they're coming back. Capital Improvement Plan Committee. The next meeting will be held tomorrow, October 25th, 6 PM at the fire station. Just for the public's knowledge, the past completed work, we have met with the department heads and have their prioritized list of projects and whether or not they intended to pay for their projects with the use of ARPA funds or warrant articles. We are still awaiting the finalizing of the library information on how they're bundling multiple smaller projects to meet the minimum $50,000 threshold. They should be coming in tomorrow, we believe. At the last meeting, we started reviewing the known SIP projects and finished the first year's pass at the ARPA dollar distributions. The school is still an open issue. Next steps, we're gonna continue to finalize the SIP plan and the ARPA dollar prioritization. Once SIP is done, results will be used to determine the calculations for the new impact fees.
So based on the school, Mr. Leary, do you want to read the letter that was sent to us?
Sure. If you guys remember, we had a discussion a few meetings ago about CIP and the situation that the school has found itself in. And we took action to recommend that they do not present to CIP until they have come before us with their plan, and present it to us in person, before we put them back on the CIP schedule. So, school board held a meeting, and Mrs. Harrison, she's not the chair anymore, but she sent a letter. So I will read it to you if you haven't seen it yet. It says, "Good evening. The school board discussed the invitation to present our final financial situation to the select board at our meeting last night. The consensus was that we are happy to share that information with the public and the select board, but respectfully decline the invitation. I have included the MS 25 and DOE 25 as the requested proof that fiscal year 22 has been closed out without a deficit. The actions of the board on September 19th ensured that the deficit was addressed in time to submit these documents to the town and DRA for tax rate setting. These were reviewed and approved and signed last night by all members of the school board, and the Hampshire DOE has given us approval of the DOE 25. At this time, we do not have documentation regarding which monies in the general fund will be available to cover the deficit in the capital projects fund. The board fully expects to use unencumbered funds from the general fund to close fiscal year 23 on June 30th, fiscal 2023, with a zero balance, because they're already running in a deficit this year. We have grant funding opportunities in the pipeline and are carefully reviewing this year's budget to find areas that are expected to be underspent, such as numerous vacant positions. As it is early in the school year, we expect to have further clarification in the coming months. Our admin's team focus at this point in time is finalizing the fiscal 24 budget for upcoming review. Our next school board meeting is scheduled for November 2nd, at which we will review, discuss, and finalize the school district CIP for board approval. We would be able to present at the November 7th CIP meeting or submit the approved document electronically for review by the CIP committee once it is approved by the board. Please do not hesitate to reach out if I can be of further assistance. Tina Harrison, School Board Rep, CIP Committee. Personally, I think we were very plain, and we said they will come here and they will tell us exactly what they're doing before we give them their approval. And I have not changed my mind yet, especially where there are things that are still up in the air. And we have to give them the approval to go to the CIP. If we just rubber stamp this, then we're on the hook. Okay? Then the taxpayers are gonna come to us and say, why did you let them proceed when they did not give you a concrete plan for what they're going to do? I am against having them present until they come and show us what they're going to do. Okay? I kind of think it's kind of a coward's way out to do this via email. They created a problem, they're hiding, and they're not facing up to it. So they need to come to us and they need to tell us what they're going to do before we give them our approval. My opinion, I'm one of five. You guys feel free to chime in.
The other part is there's some confusion on the school board on, they are correct when they don't report to us, but however, the taxpayers had a warrant article and took it from the planning board and put the CIP plan with the Board of Selectmen.
Yep.
So we're in charge of the plan. Part of the CIP plan is for impact fees. They keep talking, they being the school board has had numerous conversations now about having their own CIP outside of ours. At that point, how is it collaborative? And how does that impact them getting any money from impact fees?
It doesn't.
So right now, I mean, I really think I can make a case both ways on, you know, do we let them present or not? But I think we were pretty clear on our path going forward, that we didn't want them to give their plan to the CIP until they had their money issues resolved and a plan on how to resolve it.
And in this email right here, it still says that they don't have it completely taken care of. It says it fully expects to use unencumbered funds to come to a zero balance. They don't know what they have for unencumbered funds. The year's not over yet. They haven't gone through the budget process yet either.
And they haven't done an audit as to where it all went?
I think it was the construction fund that all the money went to. They spent a lot of money in architects and design fees for both LMS and GMS.
And what's very troubling is they don't know at this point, they can't tell you what monies went to what project. So they're gonna have to, after you go through the budget season, they're gonna go back through and try to allocate what monies were at what projects. So monies that were used for the canopy, monies that were used at GMS, monies that were used for new construction, there's no coding of where the monies went, based off of what I heard in meetings.
Do we need to take any action?
No, I think we just, well, unless you wanna change what we stated before, and allow them to present, that would take a vote, because we made our decision, and,
I see no reason to change anything.
okay.
Did they actually close out the 22-year successfully? They showed us documents, but it did actually clear a system.
DRA, and that's why.
So it's
my
good. So
question, do they
that-
have
MS-25
everything
is
they need?
loaded, the review's not done, but their
Yeah.
MS-25
So
is
it's loaded.
loaded in the portal.
Yeah, last I knew it was approved, but it hadn't been uploaded yet, and now it's uploaded.
Yeah, so it's uploaded.
There's something troubling on that too, that's just, it doesn't make sense to me that they're taking $100,000 out of the loan that they have for the LMS project, and they're putting it over, they're taking a loan against that to pay off the debt. Now, I don't know how you get a note against a note. That doesn't make any sense to me.
I think it was an early disbursement. Instead of starting on this date, they're allowing them to start sooner. I believe that's what it was.
Yeah, but they're taking money from the LMS project, which was voted by the taxpayers, and they're using it for something else. That money was approved by the taxpayers to go to the LMS project, not to go to GMS architect fees and designer fees.
Well, and that's where the problem comes. If they could show where the monies were, and now they're taking this $100,000,
That's
putting
why
it to
the
the
audit
LMS
is so
project,
important right
then you
now.
have it. But not having the cost accounting done correctly on it.
That's the audit. That needs to be determined,
And I really don't think we'll get clear answers.
But I
unless you put an independent audit in it.
Didn't they close those two funds to pay for this? Is that another delta?
They drained them down to pay for some of it. It didn't clear up everything.
I can just say from a SIP point of view, I'll say a couple of things that the warrant article is definitely tells the authorities here. So you have the Board of Selectmen, then we have the lower board, the planning board, and then this is a subcommittee of the planning board. So the chain of command
Yeah,
comes here. We are coupled with them whether we like it or not, because that is gonna be the biggest thing on SIP plan. And if it's if it's not correct, if that thing starts going in a spiral, we're going with them. If they're financially unsound. I hope that's not the case. So we're hoping to find out, and that's what you want part two to be, right? That they come in and at least say they have a process in place.
And show us what their
To
plan, what
handle
their plan is, not only for 22, what they've done, but also for 23, which is also running in the red.
Do they expect to be out of the red next year?
Who knows?
And we've had a lot of residents asking us to interject, and we're like, we can't because it's two different forms of government. There's not a lot of power we have
Yep.
but we
on
know,
behalf of the taxpayers.
but again, I'm going back to the audit, the end of the year should tell us what happened. And the billing situation that they have between the engineers or their people they use between jobs. Something's going on, I'm feeling a little fishy about that, because you're supposed to build to that job.
Yep.
You're not supposed to build from another job to this job. I'm seeing that in what I'm hearing so far. I think the audit, we need to have that. And that will help us determine where they got this to pay that.
Well, that audit's in the school board's hands. They're the only ones that can implement that.
And the problem comes in when the citizens approve a project through a warrant article, and then the spending on that project gets all murky. Then, and in the meeting that we had in the auditorium there in September or whatever it was, they said, someone brought up the fact that the warrant article said this, and you're doing something else. And the superintendent's retort was, well, yes, the intention was A, but it's legal for us to do B. That doesn't sit well with me.
Yeah, so what happened was the voter sheet that went out explaining what they wanted to do kind of gave the scope of what they wanted to do. But the way the warrant article is actually written, it gave more flexibility.
Okay.
But everybody knew what the intention was.
Well, that was that one individual who brought it up. That was his point, that you told us this. I get it that the warrant article was written this way, but your intention was this.
Yeah. I
It's just very fishy.
thought of our own experience back when we had a warrant article for a major expenditure which was turned down by the voters, but yet the department came in and made a presentation to spend the money anyway, and we said, no, the voters voted. Their intention was very clear, and for us to go against that would be a serious violation of trust with the voters. And I think we were altogether correct in doing that. And I think that the school board violated that trust. So that's my 2 cents.
My point is, why isn't the school board doing the audit for the end of the year to determine what happened?
They're looking at the process of it right now. They're trying to finish up budget season, and then they want to get that in place.
They can do-
According to the last budget, school board meeting that I was
But why
watching,
can't they do two things at the same time?
because it's the same resource doing both.
Okay, but the same resource doing, but the outside audit, we have auditors that come and balance our books, have to make sure we're good at the
But
end.
there's a lot of work on your part, gathering the documentation,
Yeah,
getting
but
it
they
all.
had their audit done. and,
Yeah, this is an
I mean, like
independent
my
audit.
audit, yeah, and so, but their regular auditors, my auditors wouldn't go when we did the fire station, they wouldn't go and ask me for my spreadsheets on, who we paid, when we paid it, or anything. They just go through your checks and balances.
Okay.
But an independent auditor now,
You could say,
now that they brought it in
Yeah.
for something specific,
here's your
they'll
scope
go
of
through
work, we
it
want you to
all,
go
yeah.
investigate.
yeah,
He'd be putting you to work when he comes in here.
yeah.
But we don't have the power to ask that of the school.
No, so it's up to the school board to,
I think it's something that they need to do, in my mind, to clear the smoke.
Yeah.
Okay.
Transparency.
Yep, to clear the smoke, what's going on? It all happened during a transition. Okay? So what happened then?
No, impact fees, if they don't, I guess they can send it electronically was an option, right, in the email. If they don't, say whatever the board decides tonight.
Yep.
What if we have to deliver a SIP plan without a school? Can we do that?
how does that, I guess the question will go back to Jay, on how does that impact the impact
The
fee
impact
schedules?
fee formula is based on what's on that plan.
Yeah,
Well, I would think that if it's important enough to them, then they would come here and they would speak with us. If they wanna move forward with the citizens in the town, because we have to answer to them.
yep. And they have to too, in their own little way. But the bottom line, the Board of Selectmen are the final say, well, in getting things going between the departments, and the school department is a separate department from the town.
Completely separate, but
Yeah,
tax bills come from our office, and
correct.
we get all the phone calls when it comes down to tax bills.
Yes, we do.
But isn't it easier for the citizens to see one report instead of one from them and one from us?
Exactly.
I
I mean,
think-
and if the two reports aren't laid on top of each other, how is there any type of planning, and how do you do anything concerning impact fees? So to say to have, and they were stating that some communities have two different plans, so
Yeah, they
maybe
do.
they don't have impact fees, because not
You've
every
seen
town
that.
has impact fees.
How does that work? Does it work out?
It's not as effective, in my opinion. It just isn't.
I would agree.
I think the other thing that you see is, especially with large projects, like the design of a school, a new school, is some sort of independent, committee. It's very hard for a school board that is having meetings to really get down into the details of oversight on projects like that. So there are many school boards who have subcommittees that are set up to do just that.
Yeah, and that's what they did for Campbell, right, Rich?
Well, we had a building committee,
Building committee.
Yes,
Yeah.
a building committee.
and there was
Discussion.
30 or 40 people on the building committee. And we had subcommittees on that. And the building committee reported to the school board, but basically, they had free reign with respect to the plan, you know?
Similar to the town hall, we
Yeah,
had a
we-
building committee here.
Yeah.
And we went through that whole thing, and the Board of Selectmen who we responded back to after. And that's how we did it here.
You know, and we do have the school facility improvement, which is cross-functional right now.
Do they have a building committee?
No, that we have the school facility improvement committee, which is budget committees on it, select boards on it, school representation, superintendent,
It should be citizens reps.
principals.
Are they approving invoices and?
No, it's been more of just going over the plan,
Contracts.
what's the vision of each part of it, meeting with architects, meeting with the designers. From that
They
standpoint.
have clerk of the
Project manager.
works on their jobs.
Who's that?
They have clerk of the works.
I don't think so.
There's somebody that oversees what's happening and reports back. If there isn't, then,
Yeah, a lot of the functionality that we've talked about is the function of the clerk of the works, isn't it usually, Kevin?
yep,
Yep.
yep.
Oh, yeah.
And
Are
if
you in
they
the
don't
building?
have a clerk of the works, that's a major gap.
Yep.
You know? And that's probably explains why things fell through the cracks. For every project, you should have a clerk of the works.
What is that? Is that like a project manager?
Similar to that. It's
Yeah.
the same idea. The billing and everything comes in, it goes through a process, and it gets sent back to the boards. It's overseeing part of the project, okay? But not all the project. It's just the financial side of it more and more. Because you're dealing with different subs, different bills, and whoever the contractor is gonna work with the clerk of the works to get things approved too. Okay, and it comes back to, and he reports back to the board, and it goes from here. We had it on this one here. Roland was, the building inspector ended up being the clerk of the works here.
So the school board would manage that team or
Yep.
person. Impact fees, but that scenario you just explained where there's two different
It's two different.
capital improvement plans, I guess. How
Yeah.
does impact fees work? Is it,
So I.
they make
I-
up their own number and we have our numbers?
From what I understand, a
No,
lot
they
of
have to
communities
keep-
have
yeah.
gone away from impact
Yeah.
fees.
Oh, okay.
I like
But I
that.
think you'd still have, you still have to take the recommendations of both
Mhm.
to develop. And I see, the concern here on both sides as far as, I certainly understand your concern. I certainly think that they needed some help in their process. And, but they need to come to that conclusion. And I think they're trying to put something in the works, but, right now you're in a position where the process has to move forward. And so they need to make decisions so
Kim-
that you can move the process
A lot
forward.
a lot of the issues with this problem is they are self-inflicted. Sitting on the budget committee, there were members asking for ledgers back in late April, early May, because the numbers just weren't adding up. So they were asking for ledgers from the school and not getting them. So if people who are outside of that realm can see that something's wrong, and you ask for information and you don't get it, you only can assume that, they knew it, but they didn't wanna fess up at that time. I mean, that's the only way I can look at it, because if you know something's wrong, it's up to you to come forward. I think if they came forward in May and said, hey, we have an issue, then I think the town would have been a lot more forgiving. Just in my opinion, but there was a very angry crowd that was there at that meeting, and then at the following school board meeting. It's gonna take a while to rebuild that trust. And as far as the Campbell project, I mean, you guys did that the right way. You had the school on board, you had budget on board, you had selectmen on board. You went to a lot of the influential families in town, you got them on board. You know, between what you guys were doing, Pat Jewett was a big supporter of that school. I mean, you guys did that the right way. I mean, that's why you guys did well. And that's why you got it in. You know, a few years later, they tried to run a Griffin project in, but that board wasn't nearly as good as the board you have now, that you had.
Yeah, you have to have credibility, and you have to have buy-in. And, you know, we needed a 2/3 vote
Yep.
to pass the bond, which was unheard of for the first time, and
Yep.
we got 68%. But you have to have that credibility, and you have to have,
Yep.
you know, you have to get everybody who has a stake, all those stakeholders have to be involved. And I see them hiring these consultants, and they're missing out on a lot of these
Yeah.
steps.
And that's what I've heard to the process, they have consultants. I go, that's not, okay, you can have a consultant, that's not a problem, but the problem is you've gotta budget him in a certain way, in which project he's gonna be consulting on. They're doing the GMS stuff and the middle school, but they're blending the time,
It's the general fund mentality.
okay?
You can take whatever from wherever and spend it
And
wherever.
that's where, you know, you're gonna have, if you're gonna draw up a plan, and I know how the budget committee is working, there's a lady on the budget committee who knows construction and financing very well with it, okay? And she's not shy. And, that's how these questions are coming. How did you get to this? She's run multi-million dollar jobs, okay? And this should never happen. So it starts at the beginning in the administration side of it down there. And then you had a drop in the financial director left, okay, correct? Okay, so you have that clause and then that time period, what happened in that too? Kim, you're familiar with finances, I know this, okay? I don't know how the board feels, but maybe if she could talk to them and say, this is the board's concern.
I don't think they'd accept it.
That's two votes.
I would be willing.
Yeah.
I would endorse it, but I don't think they would accept it. They are very secretive about what they do over there.
Okay.
But, I mean, it's worth a shot.
I'm just saying, because she's got the financial background.
Yep.
Okay?
If she
And-
wants
and
to.
maybe she can look at it and say, okay, what do? And maybe come up with something, okay, and help them. You could help them too, you know what I'm saying? Or they can feel that, no, we don't want you, but at least that's my thought.
They have an extremely good budget person sitting on their board who they don't want to hear from.
Oh, yeah, yep.
I know that already.
Yeah.
Who's an
Okay.
auditor?
Yes.
You wanna go
I-
there? Yeah.
I would say, you know, I am more than
I know you.
happy to help. I loved school. My time on the National School Board is one of the most precious times to me, and I sat with as budget chair, and I did sit on joint school building committees and renovated 5 schools. So I'd be happy to help. I do think it's important that we work together. I don't
Correct.
think that this is serving the residents well. So perhaps if I could start with the superintendent, and have a discussion, and just to let him know that I'm open to help in any way I can, and to help facilitate some questions and answers.
Okay, Kim, that's
It's
good.
worth a shot.
How'd the rest of you feel about it?
I think it's a great idea.
I have no problem with it.
Thank you.
I do have a question. I just wanna make sure
My
that,
surprise.
no, that I wanna make sure the public's clear.
Yeah.
Because these scenarios are gonna happen. One of these is gonna happen.
Yeah.
Either they're gonna come in and we're okay, they get
Yep.
onto the SIP.
Yep.
They're not gonna come in or send it electronically, and then add the SIP person, we're not gonna have them on the, whatever, the plan.
Yep.
Right? Or we're gonna fracture and go into two different directions. So we're at a crossroads here, and we have to make the public very well aware that
We already
the
know that
decision
they do
is they
not,
come in.
they don't wanna
That's the way
come
we
in
vote.
already. They got a letter they sent to us, said they don't wanna come in. So
Right.
we're just setting out, what I'm gonna call it, an olive branch, or an onion, and say, here, let's find a way that we can work together,
I agree.
okay?
Absolutely.
Yep.
But those are the three scenarios, am I missing one?
No, those are the three. I
So
mean,
those are the three, I just want the public to know that what we're looking at today, unless we start working together.
I prefer the scullion, but we'll go from there.
And then nobody knows how SIP's gonna go and load these projects either.
Correct,
They
you're not
will
gonna know.
Try to keep the tax.
But that's where we're at. I just want the public to know where we're at, yeah. And I understand their point of view. They don't believe they answered to us, yes. I understand it.
I'm looking to make this, if we are the town, they are the town, we have an issue, we gotta work together to solve it and figure out what's going on. That's the bottom line, the taxpayers wanna know that. I wanna know it as a taxpayer. Okay, so why, in watching the meetings, I find them to be very disruptive, okay? And very closed-minded sometimes. So it's time to find a solution.
So tomorrow night during the SIP meeting, they haven't presented to the school yet, so they don't have anything approved to even
Right.
come in front of us at this
Yep.
point. And if they want to show, they can show.
Yep,
I
that's
just
what it's all
wanna let
about,
Everybody know what's happening. Okay.
okay?
Back to your reports.
Oh,
We digressed a little.
just two simple ones after that.
They show,
That's three.
yes, but not present.
No.
Okay.
Okay. National Regional Planning Commission, the next quarterly meeting is Wednesday, December 24th, no, not Christmas Eve, 21st, 7 PM at NRPC's headquarters, 30 Temple Street in Nashua. Two small items would be, John Brunel had that online complaint report request form go live Friday night. So it's there. If you go to the litchfieldnh.gov, you can just go down and link to online
gotta put it on my
forms,
computer. I
and
don't
it's
have
there,
it.
and you can just fill it in on your phone or a computer. The other thing is, we're gonna have a request, which I'm gonna use that new form to send to you, about another Eagle Scout. So we're gonna need another certificate and signatures for us.
Beautiful.
All right, thank you.
I gotta say that we had the bond sale this week, and her son was going through some of the stuff that I had in there, and he finds a sewing kit with my name on it for Troop 11, okay?
Did you buy it?
Nope, I gave it to him.
Yeah?
I still have my old Boy Scout handbook.
Yep. I got the little curler, found that the other day.
I bet it's not politically correct anymore.
Don't know, I'd have to look through it.
All right, Recreation Commission, we're meeting tomorrow evening. The big item on the agenda is the field maintenance contract. So we had 5 people give bids, somewhere between 70 and change and 130. So we're gonna have to go through that and figure out which bid we're gonna go with. School Facility Improvement Committee, we meet Wednesday. That's all I have. Mr. Larry?
Oh, okay.
You didn't see him.
We meet again Thursday. It should be the last round of cuts for the town side, I believe. I think we can get through it on Thursday evening. And then we're on to the school. Just to piggyback on what we were just talking about, I think it's important that people know, and especially people sitting at home knowing that this board cares very deeply about the school, okay? We do. Mr. LaSalle has had his kids and then his grandkids go to this school. Mr. Lynch and myself have had generations of people in this school system. I don't know, I think I've got probably 5 or 6 or 7 generations anyways. Well, going back to when the town was first founded, I've also had 4 or 5 generations of teachers in the school system. Mr. Weber's got kids in the school, Kim's had kids in the school. Karen, yeah, that's true. I mean, we care deeply about this school, and what's going on right now, it saddens us, it really does. And I hope we can come to a spot where we can, get on the same page between the town and the school. Because when the school is strong, the town is strong, and vice versa. So, that's my soapbox, and I'll get off it.
Thank you. Mr. Lynch?
Conservation Committee's gonna meet soon. We haven't met since we last time met. Okay, so I really don't have anything to say, except I'd like to give Jason some credit for cutting down a tree that I knocked down 15 years ago. He cut it up in pieces, because I couldn't push it into the river, it's against the rules, okay?
What if it fell?
He was out mowing the other day.
He was doing it.
Mr. LaSalle's?
The Heritage Commission has not met. I don't know whether we'll meet in November or not. And the Emergency Management Team has seen a need to meet. We do have an election coming up, and I don't see that on the agenda. Will we have another meeting before the election?
We won't, so we need to talk about coverage, because that's the 7th. So that's in,
Well, yeah, wouldn't we have it on the seventh?
no, it's the 2nd and the 4th, so we have the 14th.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, so we don't have one that,
So we got a 3-week
the
break?
election's actually the 8th.
Yeah, so we have a 3-week break.
Yep.
Okay, I thought we were back on our schedule.
Don't we normally have Terry come in and talk, or the moderator? No?
Why ain't we meeting this?
No, we usually do it
Do
at
that
our
for
meeting
deliberative.
leading up to.
Well, this is a special meeting we're having tonight.
No, this is the normal one. Last week was special because we missed the week before because of
Columbus Day.
it's
Columbus
five
Day.
weeks in-
Oh, yeah,
Obviously, it's closed as
Something
Columbus
like
Day.
We
Yeah.
do the 2nd and 4th.
Okay.
So we're the 2nd and 4th. So we do have an election on the
14th,
8th.
28th.
We have an election on the 8th. Who wants to be there? Terry's gonna run the show.
Rich is gonna be
From a
holding
coverage-
a sign.
Yep. From a coverage standpoint, I'll be just coming back with the family from a weekend away, so I probably won't be able to get there till late afternoon.
We'll be there.
We can do the morning.
I'll be there, but not in
Yep.
an official
I
capacity.
gotta go back and look at an email, Rich, because I think this came up once when we had 2 selectmen running, and I think Laura came back and said that you could still do your official duty. You can come in and sign the boxes and
I
stuff.
believe
Yeah,
that,
you
yeah.
just can't be near the ballot box
Near the
or
ballot
any of the
box.
ballots, right?
Correct.
Ballots.
So let me go back and find that, because I know Laura did that
Yeah,
last year, 2 years ago?
It was last year, because I was running, Bobby and I were both,
yeah,
okay?
yeah, we
Yeah.
can be near the ballots.
Yeah.
Yeah, no problem being,
Any accusations of improprieties? We've had enough
We'll
of
look into
that.
that, and then we can figure it out
I'm
from a
not gonna
coverage
say which
standpoint.
party I'm running for.
No,
Well, I
No.
can help as well.
I'll bring you a coffee, Rich,
Yeah.
with a
Well, I
little
figured you were
brandy.
helping.
Yeah.
Last 5
Ready
years,
for
I
good
was
weather.
Would you like an Irish
7 in the
coffee?
morning till 11 at night.
Or
I'm
would
just
you like an
looking at
Irish
those
coffee?
SIP meetings to make sure, because they're gonna come in front of the planning board and they're gonna come in front of the board of selectmen, right? And if the school wants to come back in front of the board of selectmen, we're not meeting till what day? The 17th or 14th or
The
something?
14th.
14th.
So I'm looking at our SIP meetings. So we meet tomorrow night. We meet Monday, November 7th. That's just the normal SIP meeting, right? Then we have the November 14th is a Tuesday.
No, it's
that a Monday?
It's
It's
a
a Monday.
Monday.
Oh, so they might be coming in front of us that day, right?
Yep.
14th?
Where are you gonna hold that meeting? Since we're here.
No, I think
The
the SIP is
selectmen,
trying to
no,
come in
they
here.
will come
to
before
Oh, they
see
wanna
you.
come here to see us,
But
okay,
if that's the
present to
next
us.
time the school board comes
Okay.
in,
Yep.
they might be too
Yep.
late, is what I'm saying.
Didn't we do a public hearing before?
You did.
We did last time, we did a public
Oh.
hearing before it came to the selectmen.
I'm just saying maybe there's an emergency.
For what,
meeting.
CIP?
CIP, yeah, we
I
did a
think
public
did. I
hearing.
think there was a
We
public.
presented to the public,
Yeah,
see if
Yeah.
there was any
See-
input from the public before we came to the Board of Selectmen to have the plan approved.
Right.
I see what they're
CIP
doing.
had a
CIP
public
did,
hearing.
yes.
It says November 15th, we have a planning board, so we're going probably to the planning board, and then the first week of December, we're probably coming here.
So are they doing a public hearing this time, or no?
I think so.
Okay.
Remember the dates of the runway was
The
short.
8th of
But I just wanna make
election.
sure if the
I think
school
my
board
eyes
decides
fixed
to
on
come
the
in
7th.
and join,
Or-
that we have time to
My
get
eyes
them on
fixed
that
on the
point.
Because I know Mr. Cutter and I built the slide deck last
I
time
know.
for it.
So,
You went from
They need
paper
to come in on
to
the 14th?
electronic quickly, huh?
Yes.
so they just have to come on the 14th.
right, yeah, they
Okay,
can come on the
14th.
14th.
All right, that's, I don't wanna make sure they have time to get on the plan before it starts going to public hearing.
They're more than welcome.
I'm sorry, Mr. LaSalle, did we get through your update? Good? Nothing from the legislator? Nothing going on?
Up in Concord?
No,
Rainy day fund they're working on.
Just people are working on the election.
Next 2 weeks, no one's in there.
Did you all get a big thick thing in the mail about the
Always.
voting?
Uh-huh.
That's the first time I received one.
I've not seen one.
Okay.
A voting guide?
There was a big
Yep.
manual about
All the
all the
policies
voting
and
rules
how to-
that
all
we
the
all have
rules
to.
and-
All to select
Adhere
persons. I
to.
think all the select persons.
I received
got
it in the
that.
mail.
You do, yeah.
Yep.
You get one for every election, it feels
Yep.
like.
The first time I've seen it since
Ah.
I've been here.
It's the first one I've
But
seen.
I think it had some commotion in the last couple of years.
Did you not get one?
Put a flower pot in.
Real
I
thick?
haven't checked the mail.
We got this a while back ago.
It's easier that way. You never get billed.
All right, well, that concludes our
You don't
public
get checks
business this
either.
evening. We do have one more item. It's a non-public session under RSA 91A:3, 2C, reputation of an employee. Do we have a motion to go into non-public?
I'll make a motion.
We have a motion by Mr. Lynch.
Second.
We have a second by Mr. Leary. Roll call vote, Ms. Queenan.
Yes.
I am a yes.
Yes,
Yes.
Yes.
5 yeses.
Wow, pretty good.
No
Board is now entering non-public session. While we do not anticipate the need to return to a public session following the non-public session for any reason other than to adjourn the meeting, we reserve the right to do so if the non-public session necessitates the board taking action in public session. We are now going to enter into non-public. Thanks a lot for tuning in, and everyone be well.
Thank
Have a
you.
great night, folks.
Yep.